Krishna Prastaya Bhutili Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namini Namaste Saraswati Deve Guruvani Pracharini Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskatya Distarni Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Asti Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Today is Guru Purnima, where we honor the original Guru. The original Guru is Sri Krishna. He's the one who spoke Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna 5,000 years ago. He also spoke Bhagavad Gita to King Ikshvaku 2,005,000 years ago. And he also spoke Bhagavad Gita to Vivaswan or Surya Dev about 120 million years ago. So that means that he's the original Guru way before anybody else. And anyone who follows in his steps or in his teaching and repeats the words exactly as he's spoken them, they can become Guru. And the quintessential disciple is Arjuna. So when we understand Bhagavad Gita the way Arjuna understood it, then we become a genuine student of Bhagavad Gita. If we understand Bhagavad Gita in a different way than Arjuna, then we are not in the parampara. We're not actually a bona fide teacher. So how did Arjuna understand? He says, Param Brahma, Param Dhamma, Pavitram, Paramam Bhavam, Purusham Sasvatam Divyam, Adidevam, Ajam Vibhum, Ahustvam Rishaya Sarver, Devasir Naradastata, Asito Deva Vyasa, Swayam Shaiva Bhavisime. Arjuna tells Krishna, Arjuna said, you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the ultimate abode, the purest, the absolute truth. You are the eternal, transcendental, original person, the unborn, the greatest, and all the great sages such as Narada, Asita, Devala, and Vyasa confirm this truth about you. And now you yourself are declaring it to me. So, this is a very important statement by Arjuna. He's giving 4 authorities. His own authority, Arjuna's authority, Narada's authority, Asita's authority, Devala's authority, Vyasa's authority, and Krishna's authority, claiming that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, also every one of the Mahajans, you have Bhisma Pitamaha, you have Yamaraj, you have Lord Shiva, you have Prithu Maharaj, you have Brahma. Every one of them claimed that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then you have all the Alvar saints claiming that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, including Ramanujacharya. He's not counted as an Alvar, but he's the most prominent of all the Sri Vaishnava acharyas. Then you have the 4 Vaishnava Sampradayas, claiming that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You have the Sri Sampradaya, of course, we just named that. And then you have the Kumar Sampradaya, and the Rudra Sampradaya, and Brahma Gaudiya Sampradaya. So all these authorities, and on top of all that, you have Sankaracharya also says Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, in this purport to verses, chapter 10, Bhagavad Gita, verses 12 to 13, it says, in these two verses, the Supreme Lord gives a chance to the modern philosopher. For here it is clear that the Supreme is different from the individual soul. Arjuna, after hearing the essential 4 verses of the Bhagavad Gita in this chapter, became completely free from all doubts and accepted Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He at once boldly declares, you are Param Brahma, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And previously, Krishna stated that he is the originator of everything and everyone. Every demigod and every human being is dependent on him. Men and demigods, out of ignorance, think that they are absolute and independent of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That ignorance is removed perfectly by the discharge of devotional service. This has already been explained in the previous verse by Lord Krishna. Now, by his grace, Arjuna is accepting him as the supreme truth in concordance with the Vedic injunction. It is not that because Krishna is Arjuna's intimate friend, Arjuna is flattering him by calling him the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Absolute Truth. Whatever Arjuna says in these 2 verses is confirmed by Vedic truth. Vedic injunctions affirm that only one who takes the devotional service to the Supreme Lord can understand it, whereas others cannot. Each and every word of this verse spoken by Arjuna is confirmed by Vedic injunction. In the Kena Upanishad, it is said that the Supreme Brahman is the rest for everything. And Krishna has also explained that everything is resting on him. The Mundaka Upanishad confirms that the Supreme Lord, in whom everything is resting, can be realized only by those who engage constantly in thinking of him. This constant thinking of Krishna is smaranam, one of the methods of devotional service. It is only by devotional service to Krishna that one can understand his position and get rid of this material body. In the Vedas, the Supreme Lord is accepted as the purest of the pure. One who understands that Krishna is the purest of the pure can become purified from all sinful activities. One cannot be disinfected from sinful activities unless he or she surrenders unto the Supreme Lord. Arjuna's acceptance of Krishna as the Supreme Pure complies with the injunctions of the Vedic literature. This is also confirmed by great personalities, of whom Narada is the chief. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and one should always meditate upon him and enjoy one's transcendental relationship with him. He is the supreme existence. He is free from bodily needs, birth and death. Not only does Arjuna confirm this, but all the Vedic literatures, the Puranas and histories. In all Vedic literatures, Krishna is thus described, and the Supreme Lord himself also says in the 4th chapter, although I am unborn, I appear in this earth to establish religious principles. He is the supreme origin. He has no cause, for he is the cause of all causes, and everything is emanating from him. This perfect knowledge can be had by the grace of the Supreme Lord. Here, Arjuna expresses himself through the grace of Krishna. If we want to understand Bhagavad Gita, we should accept the statements of these 2 verses. This is called parampara system, acceptance of the disciplic succession. Unless one is in the disciplic succession, he or she cannot understand Bhagavad Gita. It is not possible by so-called academic education. Unfortunately, those proud of their academic education, despite so much evidence in Vedic literatures, stick to their obstinate conviction that Krishna is an ordinary person. So this is a very significant purport. It shows what is the qualification of a bona fide disciple, and it shows who is the most worshipable person. That's Krishna, because he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of everything. Now, how do we know this? Well, how did people 500 years ago know something about China when they were living in Europe? They believed what Marco Polo told them. He went and saw with his own eyes China, right? And how did the Greeks know anything about India? They listened to the merchants who had caravans going from Europe to India. And the merchants told them it's a wonderful place, a very wealthy place. And look at all these things we brought back, spices and silk and zero. India was the origin of zero in mathematics. You can't do anything without zero in mathematics. If you just have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, that's it. You're limited. Zero was one of the greatest inventions of India. It made mathematics workable. So they brought all these things back from India. The whole Pythagorean school, the school of Pythagoras, it was a brahmacharya ashram. Pythagorean geometry is based on Vedic mathematics. It's all about relationships amongst numbers. All these things were brought from India to the West. But the best thing was somewhat ignored. The best thing is Bhagavad Gita, which is all about Krishna. That's the best thing. So because it's been ignored so much, Srila Prabhupada came to America in 1966. And what did he do? The first book he commented on and published was Bhagavad Gita. That's the best thing. You see, he didn't bring silk. He didn't bring zero. He didn't bring what's that famous jewel they have in England? They stole, huh? Kohinoor, yeah. He didn't bring that. He didn't bring those things. He brought the best thing of India, that is Bhagavad Gita and knowledge of Krishna, you see. And if that's not enough, he also brought Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is the work of an acharya, a great teacher and great spiritual master. Spiritual master, a real spiritual master, is interested in the welfare of the people. And Krishna says, Yomam ajam anadim cha veti loka maheshwara asamuda samartyesu sarva papai pramuchyate. This is Bhagavad Gita 10th chapter, 3rd verse. Krishna says, he who knows me as the unborn, as the beginningless, as the Supreme Lord of all the worlds, he only, undiluted among men, is freed from all sins. So, why do we suffer in the material world? Due to sins. Sins that are committed consciously and sins that are committed unconsciously, out of ignorance. Just like a baby doesn't know that by sticking their finger in the electric plug, they can get electrocuted. As they begin to walk around the house and crawl around the house, they start seeing interesting things like electric plugs and gas ranges and electric wires and all kinds of things that are interesting for them, and they explore them, and it's very easy that they can die or get seriously injured. Therefore, you have these plastic things that you stick into electric plugs so they can't put their finger or put a pencil or anything in there, right? Because they have to make everything idiot-proof to protect the baby, right? Otherwise, the baby can get seriously injured in many ways, like turning on the gas range, for example, and not knowing how to turn it off, and other things, like drinking water out of the toilet. Kids will do that. Young kids, they don't understand. Right? So, this Bhagavad Gita is all about Krishna. It's not about anyone else. One time a man came here and he said to me, "Oh, you are the leader of this temple?" I said, "I'm a servant." He said, "No, you're the leader." He said, "I want to talk to you." I said, "What do you want?" He said, "I have to tell you the truth. Krishna did not write Bhagavad Gita." I said, "Really? Who wrote it?" He said, "Lord Shiva wrote it." He said, "My guru wrote this book." He had a pile of those books. And he said, "I want to give you this, but I want you to give it to everyone so they know the truth." I said, "How many books do you have?" He said, "I have 30. I said, "Give them all to me." He said, "I'm very happy you're taking them." So after he left, I threw them all out. Did Krishna speak Bhagavad Gita or did Lord Shiva speak Bhagavad Gita? You tell me. All over Bhagavad Gita, Krishna's name is mentioned. Like, for example, let's look at this. This is a statement by Sanjaya. He was the guru of Dhritarashtra. And Sanjaya says, he says, Bhagavad Gita, last verse, Yatra Yogeshwaro Krishna, Yatra Partha Dhanurdhara, Yat Tatra Shri Vijayo Bhutir Dhruvam Nitir Matir Mama. He says, Yatra Yogeshwaro Krishna, wherever there is Krishna, he mentions the name Krishna, it's the Sanskrit is right there, the master of all mystics, and wherever there is Arjuna, the supreme archer, there will also certainly be opulence, victory, extraordinary power, and morality. That is my opinion. So he didn't say, Yatra Yogeshwaro Shiva, right? Now, who should know? He should know, because he was there 5,000 years ago, listening through his mystical powers, the discussion between Krishna and Arjuna. Then again, it is said, he says, Vyasa prasadach chuttavan etad guyam aham param yogam yogeshwarat krishnat shakshat katayata swayam. He said, by the mercy of Vyasa, I have heard these most confidential talks directly from the master of all mysticism, Krishna, who was speaking personally to Arjuna. This is in the Sanskrit. He says, Yogam Yogeshwarat Krishna. This is 18th chapter, 75th verse, 18th chapter, 78th verse. He says, Yatra Yogeshwaro Vara Krishna. Again. So, how can you say that Shiva wrote the Bhagavad Gita when people who were there, like Sanjaya and Arjuna, they're saying the name of Krishna. They're not saying Shiva. They don't say Shiva Uvacha. They say Krishna Uvacha, Bhagavan Uvacha. So Vyasa was the spiritual master of Sanjaya. And Sanjaya admits that it was by Vyasa's mercy that he could understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's why today is celebrated as Vyasa Purnima, because he is the authority who's teaching many other people since the time of Krishna. Who is Krishna? So Vyasa, his disciple is Sanjaya, and because he's a disciple of Sanjaya, of Vyasa, he had extraordinary powers. He was sitting in Delhi telling Dhritarashtra what's happening in real time in Kurukshetra. And he's saying word for word Krishna's Bhagavad Gita recitation to Arjuna. See? These are not ordinary men, they're extraordinary persons. So it says, Vyasa was the spiritual master of Sanjaya, and Sanjaya admits that it was by Vyasa's mercy that he could understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This means that one has to understand Krishna not directly, but through the medium of the spiritual master. The spiritual master is the transparent medium, although it is true that the experience is still direct. Now, this is a mystery, you see. To become a spiritual master, you have to be a transparent via media. That means that you can't be opaque. You have to be transparent. You cannot make up explanations. You have to repeat what the original guru said. The original guru is Krishna. Vyasadeva is the author of the Mahabharata and Vedanta Sutra and Srimad Bhagavatam, and the compiler of the 4 Vedas, including the Upanishads, 108 Upanishads, and the Puranas, and Mahabharata, and so forth. So therefore, Vyasadeva is celebrated today as the guru, but actually the original guru is Krishna. All Vyasadeva is doing is repeating what Krishna said and repeating what great sages said about Krishna in the past. So it says here, this is the mystery of disciplic succession. The spiritual master is the transparent medium, although it is true that the experience is still direct. This is the mystery of the disciplic succession. So today we're hearing Bhagavad Gita as it is, by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, exactly the way it was spoken to Arjuna 5,000 years ago. So therefore, although it's coming from people that who are not Krishna, I'm not Krishna, Prabhupada is not Krishna, but yet there's this mystery. You're hearing exactly what Krishna said to Arjuna. And the proof is, if you hear sincerely, you also become a devotee of Krishna like Arjuna did 5,000 years ago. If after reading Bhagavad Gita, you say that I'm still happy eating meat, drinking Starbucks, and seeing my 401k get bigger, then you didn't read Bhagavad Gita. You might have thought you read Bhagavad Gita, but you didn't read it. Because when Arjuna heard Bhagavad Gita, he gave up all that, the 401k, the Starbucks coffee, all that stuff, and surrendered to Krishna and dedicated the rest of his life to Krishna. This is what happens when you meet a bona fide guru. It doesn't mean that you become some fanatic or you give up your family or you stop working, but you begin to prioritize what's important in your life. You prioritize that Krishna is the most important thing in my life. Bahunam janmanamante gyanavam prapadyante vasudeva savamiti samahatma sudurlabha. So this is explained in Bhagavad Gita, 7th chapter, where it says, after many, many lifetimes of speculation and, let's call it, futile attempts to understand God, one, if they're lucky enough to meet a bona fide guru, comes to the right conclusion. Vasudeva Sarvamiti. O Krishna, you are everything for me. After many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes, and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. They become a Mahatma. That means a rare soul, because now they become very liberal. They understand that not everyone can surrender to Krishna right away. So therefore they devise strategies to help people gradually surrender. Right? The living entity, while executing devotional service or transcendental rituals, after many, many births, may actually become situated in transcendental pure knowledge that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the ultimate goal of spiritual realization. In the beginning of spiritual realization, while one is trying to give up one's attachment to materialism, there is some leaning toward impersonalism. But when one is further advanced, he can understand that there are activities in the spiritual life, and that these activities constitute devotional service. Realizing this, he becomes attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and surrenders to him. At such a time, one can understand that Lord Sri Krishna's mercy is everything, that he is the cause of all causes, and that this material manifestation is not independent from him. He realizes the material world to be a perverted reflection of spiritual variegatedness, and realizes that in everything there is a relationship with the Supreme Lord Krishna. Thus he thinks of everything in relation to Vasudeva, or Krishna. Such a universal vision of Vasudeva precipitates one's full surrender to the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna, as the highest goal. Such surrendered great souls are very rare. This verse is nicely explained in the 3rd chapter, verses 14 and 15 of the Svetasvatara Upanishad. Sahasra Sirsha Purushaha Sahasraksha Sahasrapad Sabhumin Visvato Vritva Tyatista Dasangulam Purusha Evadam Sarvam Yadbhutam Yachchabhavyam Utam Ritat Pasyen Yesano Yad Anenat Tirohati. This verse is very important. It's also in the Purusha Sukta. And what does it say? It says that he is all that was and all that will be. He is Lord of immortality, full and all that is nourished by food. Lord Vishnu has thousands of heads, thousands of eyes, thousands of feet. He is encompassing the whole universe. He still extends beyond it. He is, in other words, he is greater than the entire universe because it's contained within him. So in other words, he is everything, right? So this is the meaning of Vasudeva Sarvamiti. Krishna, you are everything for me. This is the conclusion one comes to when they hear Bhagavad Gita correctly. Just like, let's say some man and woman are in love, and at one point the man says, you are everything for me. Right? Of course, after 5 or 10 years of marriage, you say, well, you might be only 50%. After like 40, 50 years of marriage, say, you're not even 1%. But in the beginning, you're everything for me. But the other way, we begin by saying, God, maybe 0.00000.1. That's what God means to me. But after you read Bhagavad Gita correctly and associate with devotees and engage in devotional service, it's the opposite. You say, Krishna, you're everything for me. And you mean it. And when you mean it, that means you dedicate your whole life to serving Krishna. You learn what's called Yoga Koshalam, the art of work, by which every action you perform is only to please Krishna. That can include your work. That can include everything in your life. It's called the art of work. And that's what we teach. When you read Bhagavad Gita, you learn this art of work. Right now, we are engaging in the art of mundane living, or as they say, the art of living, right? It means mundane living, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. We're learning that, buying bigger beds, buying bigger cars, buying bigger food, having bigger stools, and so forth. But the art of work is how to direct everything you do for the pleasure of Krishna. And that's what Krishna teaches Arjuna. To do that, you can't have one bone of selfishness. Not even one bone of selfishness. You have to be completely unselfish so that you can dedicate everything to Krishna. Now, what is the greatest thing we can dedicate? Goodness, transcendental goodness, transcendental behavior. That's the greatest thing that we could dedicate to the Lord. By always acting in a very noble way, representing the Lord speaking correctly, not speculating, learning to repeat the words of Krishna and the acharyas, always being a good person and helping others advance in Krishna consciousness. That's the greatest way you can demonstrate your dedication to Krishna. And that you can do working, you can do anywhere, anytime. It's not that you can only do it in a cave in the Himalayas. No. Who's going to see you if you're in a cave in the Himalayas? The people that are in the cave in the Himalayas, meditating, doing tapasya, that's because they're selfish. They want their own salvation. They don't want to share their salvation with others. When they get liberated, they don't take anybody with them. They just go individually. But they'll come back again because of that selfishness. But the real devotee is where people are suffering every day. And you can see it. People are suffering every day here, especially in the big cities, whether it's Chennai or Mumbai or Delhi or Pune or any one of those cities, or it's New York or Los Angeles or Atlanta or Houston or Seattle. People are suffering. And by the way, I'm going to explain something very interesting today. You probably never have heard this. I'm writing a booklet for Ananda Mela, and the title of the booklet is Be Healthy, Happy, and Spiritual. Right? So in this book we explain, as I've lectured several times already on Sunday, the 5 principles for attaining optimal health. So that if you follow these 5 principles, the way I explain it, even without chanting Hare Krishna, right? We do mention it as one of the principles, but not one of the principles, part of one of the principles. But still, it's not necessary. You'll come to the mode of goodness, at least material goodness. Because it's only in the mode of goodness that people can begin to understand something about spiritual life. Right? And then by learning Bhagavad Gita and engaging in devotional service, you're promoted to transcendental goodness. So when I was doing my research, I was understanding something that I never understood before. That is, there was a famous doctor and scientist in Hitler's Germany called Dr. Warburg, Otto Warburg. He was actually born in a Jewish family. His grandfather and grandmother were Orthodox Jews. But his father converted to Christianity. And he married a Christian woman. So, according to Nazi philosophy, he was 50% Jew. Right? If you're 50% Jew in Nazi Germany, you end up in the gas chamber. Right? But he was one of the foremost scientists in Germany. He was right up there with Einstein and others. But when he was invited to leave Germany in the 1930s and come to the United States, well, people like Einstein and others went. He refused to go. He was something of a war hero, a German war hero in World War I. So he was not identifying himself as a Jew. So, in order that they didn't kill him, Goering, which was number 2 man in Germany at that time, there was Goering, there was Hitler, and then there was Goering. He insisted to redefine his Jewishness to 25%. If you're 25% Jew, then you're not killed. They'll let you work, and so forth. So he continued uninterrupted with all his research. Now, he won the Nobel Prize in 1931 for his work on how to cure cancer. In 1931, right? And he was studying respiration, cellular respiration, okay? Because we have maybe 1-2 billion cells in the body. Now those cells, to stay alive, they have to get oxygen. So, and they need energy. So we eat plants, and from those plants and grains and lentils and nuts and things like that, we digest them, and we get glucose. Glucose is a fundamental sugar that's made by plants through photosynthesis. And then animals eat plants and so forth, and they get a little bit of it, right? So even if you eat meat, you get a little bit of that glucose, but you get a lot of it if you eat plants that are grown, especially organically, with no pesticides and things like that. So then that glucose is broken down through an oxidative process, and it is able to, through many different processes, chemical processes go into the body, it goes on in the body, nourish every cell with energy, and it's carried, let's say, with oxygen through the blood, and then it nourishes the cells. Well, Waring discovered that cancer cells do not use the oxidative process to produce glucose. They use fermentation. And he also discovered that normal cells will be killed on a regular basis and replenished with new cells. Whereas the cancer cells, because they have a different way of getting energy, they're immune to being killed by the body. You have a process in the body that kills cells and renews them all the time. He found out that the cancer cells were immune to being killed, and they just keep repeating themselves and getting stronger and stronger. And eventually, they overwhelm the body with toxic things. Any living thing is producing, we produce stool, right? But stool is a massive collection of the cell's refuse. So these cancer cells don't die in a normal way, and they keep reproducing, and they eventually overwhelm the body with toxins. Now, the question has been, since the time of Warburg and his Nobel Prize, a lot of research has been done on his work. Now, you know and I know, they're still trying to find a cure for cancer, is it not? And every year they collect millions and millions of dollars, to find a cure for cancer. Okay. So, Warburg said, in 1931, he said, how are these cancer cells being produced? Right? What is it that's making them, go into a different way of making energy and not being killed themselves, So he said that there could only be two causes. He said it's either their DNA or their genes are being changed by toxins in the environment, or by genetic mutation, right? And because all the scientists have been followers of Darwin, they ignored toxins and have been trying to cure cancer, trying to figure out how to stop the genetic mutation. Now, that is a fruitless effort. So the last 40, 50 years, all the money that's been collected, all the research has been done, has not come up with a solution, because you cannot, they want to change the genetic DNA of the cancer cells through some kind of a serum or whatever, and it doesn't work. Basically, they've wasted those years, and they wasted all that money. But the other thing is true. The real reason why the DNA of certain cells changes and becomes toxic and becomes cancerous is due to toxins in the environment, such as radioactivity, such as toxic materials. Now, in the lecture I gave last 2 weeks, I went through a list of all the toxic materials in a house, in a modern house today. And the list is frightening. I don't know, did you hear the lecture? It's frightening when even myself, I got frightened when I read it the first time. I didn't realize that so many things are toxic in our house, beginning with non-stick pans. They're extremely toxic, and you're breathing that in, and it causes cancer. But there are many other things, not just that, right? So the scientists do not experiment on the toxicity of modern things that are in houses and in water, like they put fluoride and chlorine in the water here in Sammamish. Did you know that? Right? And then PVC plastic is extremely toxic. I don't want to go through the list now, but it's like 100 things in our house today, right now, that are extremely toxic and can cause cancer or other serious problems, right? That's why you have so much cancer. And the research they do will not solve the problem. They're looking in the wrong place because all those toxic things are being manufactured massively, and big companies are making massive profits on them. They're not going to eliminate them, right? If PVC piping, you think they're going to eliminate PVC piping? And iron lead in paint, they're not going to, unless it's mandated by the FDA, they're not going to stop selling it. And so forth, chlorine and fluorine put in water. You think they're going to stop that? And then all the problems with food, industrial, agriculturally produced food. So anyway, I thought I would share that with you. Because this explains why they haven't found a cancer cure, although they've been experimenting. Even before Warburg, they were just experimenting, because as soon as the Industrial Revolution came in, they started making toxic things, right? And they didn't inform people that they were toxic. Like, for example, cigarettes. I mean, people didn't know that they were putting addictive, toxic things in the cigarettes, so that people would get addicted to cigarettes and not stop smoking. Until only 10, 12 years ago, they started, the government, started giving out all the information. About 15 years ago, they started giving out all the information that the cigarette companies purposely put these intoxicating chemicals in the tobacco. They claim it's natural, but it's not natural. And people get hooked on smoking. They can't give it up. Right? So that's big agriculture, that's big industry, that's big pharmaceutical companies and so forth. They're doing all these things to keep people sick, because that's how they make money. They don't make money when people are healthy. Right? Okay, so here the acharyas do not engage in for-profit business. They say, you can't be honest if you're for-profit. A lot of people complain about Microsoft. Like 10, 15 years ago, they were all complaining about Microsoft. Why? Because Microsoft was unfairly controlling the market. How is it that MS-DOS was in almost every computer, right? They unfairly stacked the deck so that they would knock out all their competitors. They had plenty of competitors. They were knocked out one by one. Right? Nowadays, they're complaining about Google and Facebook and so forth, because they're doing the same thing, right? And there's fierce competition between them, Microsoft and Google and Facebook and Amazon. See? And what do? They try and get a monopoly. And Amazon has like a monopoly. They keep buying one company after another. And Facebook keeps buying one company after another. Some company finds a new product, they're successful, they buy them out for, $15 billion or $20 billion, right? Because they don't want any competitors. And it's all cheating. So you cannot be a guru if you have selfish desires or material desires, because you will not be able to help people honestly. You'll have the profit incentive. Why do you think we have, like when we opened the My Sweet Lord restaurant, and I said it was going to be not for profit, and devotees complain, said, what do you mean? I know how to make this pakora, it only costs so much, and you can sell it for so much, and you'll make a lot of money. I said, we're not going to try and do that, right? Because we want to just give the food free. No, that's nonsense, that's Maya. You have to make money. I said, you don't have to make money. You have to just give prasadam. Prasadam should be free. He said, that's another thing. We should sell the prasadam in the temple. I said, then it's not prasadam. You see, there are temples you go, you have to pay for the Sunday feast. ISKCON temples in the United States. Did you go to any? Yeah. 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 So we see that, the Govinda's is a restaurant, but the prasadam they distribute, they give it out free, right, on Sunday. Yeah. Recommended donate. L.A.? Yeah, so you see, Prabhupada, he gave us Krishna consciousness. What is Krishna consciousness? It's all about pure devotional service. Now, what does it mean, pure devotional service? Well, it means that there's no material motive. The only motive is to please Krishna. One is not worried about making a profit. One is worried about actually delivering Krishna consciousness. So this is explained in Bhagavad Gita 11, chapter 55th verse. Mat karma krin, mat paramo, mat bhakta sankabharajita, nivairak sarvabhutesu ya samam eti pandava. My dear Arjuna, he who engages in my pure devotional service, free from the contamination of fruitive activities. What is fruitive activities? You do something to get the fruit. You're doing something, like for example, you are working in Amazon or Microsoft to get the fruit, which is your salary, right? If Amazon said, we're going to let you work, but we're not going to pay you. How long would you stay in Amazon? You let me know. How long would you stay in Amazon? Not even for one day, not even for 1 minute, right? You say, so that's called fruitive activity. We're working for the fruit of the activity, which is the money or the stock options or whatever. And they dangle those things, They say, oh, well, you'll get these stock options, but they don't mature for 10 years. And if you leave the company before that, you get 0. Well, that's like the carrot in front of the donkey. Hare Krishna. That's like the carrot in front of the donkey. The donkey sees the carrot, but he can't reach it, but he keeps walking toward it, right? Thinking that he'll reach it one day, So these are all planned things that keeps us working very hard. Now that's okay. You have to work honestly if you're a grihasta. But here it says, free from the contamination of fruitive activities and mental speculation, he who works for me, who makes me the supreme goal of his life, and who is friendly to every living being, he certainly comes to me. So this is called pure devotional service. It's the only way we can approach Krishna. So here in the 10th chapter, 3rd verse, some very important things are explained in the purport. It says, as stated in chapter 7 of Bhagavad Gita, Manusyanam sahasresu kaschit jadati siddhaye, kaschit jadati siddhaye. Those who are trying to elevate themselves to the platform of spiritual realization are not ordinary persons. They are superior to millions and millions of ordinary men who have no knowledge of spiritual realization. But out of those actually trying to understand their spiritual situation, one who can come to the understanding that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the proprietor of everything, the unborn, is the most successful spiritually realized person. In that stage only, when one has fully understood Krishna's supreme position, can one be free completely from all sinful reactions. So understanding Krishna's spiritual position will liberate us from all sinful reactions. Liberated from all sinful reactions means now you can begin devotional service. You cannot really begin the service as long as you're encumbered by sinful reactions. And basically, I experienced this myself. The day I was initiated, I felt as if a weight of 10,000 pounds was taken off my head. I actually felt it because I felt I was free now to engage in Krishna's service without any, let's say, obstacle. The obstacle is our sinful reactions. So by chanting Hare Krishna, by taking prasadam, and all these things, you gradually get rid of sinful reactions, and by the time you come to initiation, you're hopefully completely free so that you can engage in the service of Krishna without any material, let's say, hankerings. If the material hankerings are still there, it's by regulated hearing and chanting and following the program and engaging in devotional service that you gradually get rid of them or keep cleaning them up, let's put it like that. As they come in, they go out. Right? Okay, so therefore, Prabhupada says, here the Lord is described by the words aja, meaning unborn. But he is distinct from the living entities who are described in the second chapter as aja. The Lord is different from the living entities who are taking birth and dying due to material attachment. Jai Shri Shri Radha Nila Madhava Ki Jai. Namaste Saraswati Devi Guru Manuchani Visesanyam Paskatya Dustra. Yeah, we are born, and if we don't get free of material attachments, we die and take birth again. Material attachments are so contaminating that they keep us birth after birth in the material world, and not necessarily as human beings. It depends on the degree of material attachments and sinful activities that we performed. We can go back to being animals or lower than animals and have to wait through many, many births to come back to the human form. The Lord is different from the living entities who are taking birth and dying due to material attachment. The conditioned souls are changing their bodies, but his body, or Krishna's body, is not changeable. Even when he comes to this material world, he comes as the same unborn. Therefore, in the 4th chapter, it is said that the Lord, by his internal potency, is not under the inferior material energy, but is always in the superior energy. In this verse, the word Veta Loka Maheshwaram indicates that one should know that Lord Krishna is the supreme proprietor of the planetary systems of the universe. He was existing before the creation, and he is different from his creation. All the demigods were created within this material world, but as far as Krishna is concerned, it is said that he is not created. Therefore, Krishna is different even from the great demigods like Brahma and Shiva. And because he is the creator of Brahma, Shiva, and all the demigods, he is the supreme person of all the planets. This is real knowledge. You go to other temples, they say, Guru Vishnu, Guru Shiva, Guru Brahma, they're all God. They're all equal. You can worship anyone, you get the same result. That's not what we just read. That's not what Krishna is saying in Bhagavad Gita. That's not what Arjuna says when he says Param Brahma, Param Dhamma. See? So actually, you go to a temple to get purified, but you actually get contaminated by wrong information. And that wrong information stays there. Oh, you can worship any god. Just like one man in India, he was selling certain raw materials to Nazi Germany. He put Hitler on his altar in Calcutta, along with Shivaji and Mata and this one and that one, and so many people were on his altar. He's all worshiping them equally. See? As many gods, as many truths, as many ideas, as many valid conclusions, and so forth. It's all nonsense. So it says that Sri Krishna is therefore different from everything that is created. And anyone who knows him as such immediately becomes liberated from all sinful reactions. One must be liberated from all sinful activities to be in the knowledge of the Supreme Lord. Only by devotional service can he be known, and not by any other means, as stated in Bhagavad Gita. One should not try to understand Krishna as a human being. As stated previously, only a foolish person thinks him to be a human being. This is again expressed here in different ways. A man who is not foolish, who is intelligent enough to understand the constitutional position of the Godhead, is always free from all sinful reactions. So you see, Janma Karma Chime Divyam Evam Yo Veti Tatvata Tyakvadeham Punarajanma Naitimam Eti Sarjana. Anyone who knows the mysterious and transcendental appearance and activities of Krishna does not come back to this world after death, but goes back to Godhead. That's how powerful this knowledge of Krishna is. That's why Prabhupada didn't waste his time writing about other subjects. He wrote only about Krishna. The whole Bhagavatam is only about Krishna. All the other Vedas, there's only partial information of Krishna. There's a lot of other information, but it's not focused on Krishna. Bhagavatam is the only book, and Bhagavad Gita both, they're the only books that only deal with the subject of Krishna. They don't waste their time talking about this thing or that thing. Right? So this Janma Karma Chame Divyam, 4th chapter, 9th verse, says, one who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance, meaning Krishna's appearance and activities, does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. Therefore, all our efforts should be to understand who Krishna is and what our relationship with Krishna is, how to act in that relationship, and eventually develop pure love and devotion for Krishna. And then we'll say, Vasudeva Saramati, Krishna, you are everything for me. Nothing else makes sense to me. I don't see anything independent of you. When I look at something, I understand how it's connected to you. Therefore, I'm never outside of your vision. I'm never in Maya because I don't see anything separate from you. Maya means seeing things separate from Krishna. Only by devotional service can he be known, and not by any other means, as stated in Bhagavad Gita. If Krishna is known as the son of Devaki, then how can he be unborn? That is also explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. When he appeared before Devaki and Vasudeva, he was not born as an ordinary child. He appeared in his original form, and then he transformed himself into an ordinary child. But even so-called ordinary child, he was still Krishna. He had all his powers, even though he appeared two-armed. Because when he first appeared in front of Vasudeva and Devaki, he had 4 arms. He had the Narayana form. And Devaki became afraid. She said, oh my God, Kamsa is sure to kill him because, he looks like God. He is God. Even though he's a little baby. He's a little baby with 4 arms and the chakras and everything. And she said, please change your form into an ordinary baby. Well, he did, but that just proves that Yasodamaya was under the influence of Yogamaya. Yogamaya is the illusory energy by which we come closer to Krishna. And Mahamaya is the illusory energy by which we go farther away from Krishna. So she could not hug the little baby, she could not think that the baby depended on her, feeding him and so forth, if she thought he was Narayana. Right? You can't do those things to Narayana, but you can do those things to Krishna. So then it says, anything done under the direction of Krishna is transcendental. It cannot be contaminated by material reactions, which may be auspicious or inauspicious. The conception that there are things auspicious and inauspicious in the material world is more or less a mental concoction, because there is nothing auspicious in the material world. Now, this is what's called a pessimistic view of the material world. Most people say, oh, that's very negative. No, this is the truth. That doesn't mean you're a pessimist. It means that, like for example, if you look at a snake, you don't say, oh, this snake is a good one, and that other snake is a bad one. Wait a minute, that's nonsense. Snake is a snake, right? Whether it's poisonous or not, it'll still bite you. Even a non-poisonous snake's bite, right? So, therefore, you don't say this snake is auspicious and that snake is not auspicious. They're both inauspicious. And the same way, the material world, the good and bad in the material world are both bad, because they both keep you entangled in the cycle of birth and death. Oh, I won the lottery. Now I have $340 million. Okay, I'll give a donation to the temple. Let them build a second temple. Okay, fine. But attachment to that money, even if you give some of it for a spiritual purpose, will get you born again. Right? It'll inflate your ego. Many people who win the lottery, sometimes it ruins their life. They realize later on, I would have been better off not winning. Now I'm surrounded by all these greedy people trying to get money from me for this business deal or that business deal. And they don't leave me alone. Before, people left me alone. They didn't care about me. I didn't have any money. Now I have $330 billion. They're bothering me every day, getting phone calls. Hello, how are you doing? I say, I don't care. You hang up. You say, I'm sick and tired of this notoriety. So everything is inauspicious because the very material nature is inauspicious. We simply imagine it to be auspicious. Real auspiciousness depends on activities in Krishna consciousness in full devotion and service. So one lady came today, and she was complaining that her daughter is getting a little older now, and this summer she wants to work in Starbucks. In fact, she got a job to work in Starbucks. She hasn't started yet, but she got a job. And she went with her daughter for an interview or something. And she realized, oh my God, Starbucks sells meat. So she told her daughter, don't take that job. The daughter said, why shouldn't I take that job? She said, but they're selling meat. He said, what's wrong with selling meat? I'm not eating the meat, I'm just selling it. She said, no, it's sinful. And she came to the temple to ask me, she said, is it sinful if she just sells the meat? I said, look, the cow is so holy that if you kill the cow, you sell the cow after it's killed, you transport the cow, you cut the cow meat, you cook the cow meat, you sell the cow meat, you share in the sin. And she said, what's the sin? I said, the sin is you have to take as many births as there are hairs on the body of the cow and be slaughtered in the same way. Manu Samhita, chapter 5, verse 35 and verse 47. She said, really? She said, I knew there was sinful, but I didn't know it was that sinful. I said, yes. But if you tell your daughter that, she won't believe you. She'll say, that's a fairy tale. I don't believe it. She said, you're right. She said, she's my daughter. I mean, we don't eat meat. Our family is strictly vegetarian. We've never eaten meat. These kids have never eaten meat. I don't understand why she doesn't think selling the meat is bad. I said, because it's your fault. You never brought her to the temple so she could get educated on these things. These are some things that we teach our kids in the temple, and she could have bonded with other temple kids she probably won't even want to come to the temple because she doesn't have any friends in the temple. She said, "You're right. How did you know?" I said, "We see this all the time." I said, "It's your fault. You pushed her to be academic, and now she's showing you what she learned in school. Even though she's a vegetarian, she doesn't think there's anything wrong with selling meat. And if she starts selling the meat and seeing how people are enjoying eating it, she might even start eating meat pretty soon. So you see the danger there is in not being involved in the education of your kids. And the highest knowledge is to know who Krishna is. Let's say you you work in Starbucks. Let's say you become the CEO of Starbucks. You're still going to take birth again in the material world because of material attachment. No matter how successful you become, right? There'll be material attachment that will force you to be born again. But if you know Krishna, even if you're very poor and you know Krishna, you go back to Godhead. So it says, therefore, if we at all want our activities to be auspicious, then we should work under the directions of the Supreme Lord, Krishna. Such directions are given in authoritative scriptures such as Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, the two main books that Srila Prabhupada translated, right? And most people are not reading them every day, even initiated devotees. Sometimes we go on the streets and we're distributing, and we meet an Indian person and said, "Would you like to have the Bhagavad Gita?" Said, No, I know it already. Is that right, Pran Shakti? They say, "I know it already. I have it already. I've read it. In kindergarten, we read a few verses. See, this is complete nonsense. What do they know about Bhagavad Gita? They don't know anything about Bhagavad Gita, right? In kindergarten, we learned a few verses, right? How about after kindergarten? Oh, no, we only learned the other things. We didn't waste our time learning Bhagavad Gita. And I'm not going to waste my time now buying it and trying to learn it, right? So, and these are Indians. The Americans will take Bhagavad Gita easier than the Indians do. You say, well, Emerson read the Bhagavad Gita, Thoreau read the Bhagavad Gita, Einstein was there. Really? I didn't know that. They're pretty smart guys. Maybe I should start reading Bhagavad Gita. Okay, I'll take this book, right? You see, it's easier to. Is this true or not, Prabhu? You're out on the streets distributing Bhagavad Gita. Well, they'll take it in the temple because they have some interest in coming to it. But you meet Indians in the street. Let's say you're down in Westlake Park, or you're in the U district. It's harder to distribute to Indians than it is to Western people. No, because they know it. They learned 2 verses in kindergarten, 25 years ago. That's enough. Okay, so because the spiritual master is the representative of the Supreme Lord, his direction is directly the direction of the Supreme Lord. The spiritual master, saintly persons, and scriptures direct in the same way. Now, see, that's the main point right there. If we only read the first thing I read and not the second thing, it could be misleading, because so many people claim to be spiritual masters nowadays, or incarnations of Krishna, or the present avatar, whatever. So it gets confusing. If you say in India, "Will the real Bhagavan please stand up?" How many people would stand up? Thousands of people would stand up and they look at each other. What? You? No, I'm the Bhagavan. You're not the Bhagavan. Okay, I'll say you're the Bhagavan. As long as you say I'm the Bhagavan, then we're okay. Then we're friends. See, it's all nonsense, right? So the spiritual master, saintly persons, and scriptures direct in the same way. So one time Prabhupada was asked, what do you think of Mahesh Yogi? He said, he's not standard. I said, what? What do you mean standard? He said, he's not following the standard process. So that's very important. What does he mean he's not following the standard process? First of all, he's not in a bona fide spiritual lineage. And then secondly, the Beatles broke off from Mahesh Yogi. You know why? Because he was trying to have a relationship with Mia Farrow. He got too personal with her, and they saw that, and they broke away from him. And then they came eventually to Prabhupada. And Prabhupada never did anything like that. Right? So, the spiritual master, saintly person in the scriptures, direct in the same way. There's no contradiction in these three sources. All actions done. See, that is the essential qualification of a bona fide spiritual master, is simply repeat the words of Krishna and the acharyas, who also repeat the words of Krishna. So I'm going to read something by Prabhupada. He says that, so this knowledge means to understand the original source. That is philosophy. Find out the original source. That is knowledge. So, the Vedaischa Sarvir Aham Eva Vedya. This is Krishna, 15th chapter, 15th verse, the third line of the verse. Vedaischa Sarvir Aham Eva Vedya. Krishna says, and I am to be known through the Vedas. He is the goal of the Vedic knowledge, to know Krishna. There's no other goal. Actually, the knowledge terminates when you understand Krishna. This is Prabhupada speaking now. He is the source of everything. So there is a struggle for existence, a human race, the only hope, his divine grace, meaning Prabhupada speaking about his guru. This is a poem that he wrote. So we got this information from his divine grace, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and that knowledge is still going on. You are receiving it through his servant, meaning Prabhupada, our Guru Dev. And in future, the same knowledge will go through your students. In other words, he's saying, and you are my students, and you will give the same knowledge to your students. This is called parampara. This is called parampara system, disciplic succession. Evam parampara praptam imam rajasayuvidu. It is not that you have become a student and you remain student. No. One day you shall become also guru and make more students, more students, more students. That is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission. Amara Agyaya Guruhana Tare Edesh. That, you learn this Krishna consciousness and you teach it to others. That was Lord Chaitanya's order. Okay? Yes, one should remain perpetually a student, but he has to act as guru. That is the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It is not that because I am acting as guru, I am no longer student. No. I am still student. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught us this instruction, that we shall always remain a foolish student before our Guru Maharaj. That is the Vedic culture. I may be a very big man, but still I should remain a foolish student to my Guru. That is the qualification. Guru more murka dehi karila sasana. We should be always prepared to be controlled by the Guru. That is very good qualification. Yasya prasada, bhagavat prasada, yasya prasada, nagatir katopi. Arana koriha mane asa. So we should become always a very obedient student to our Guru. That is the qualification. That is the spiritual qualification. So, Prabhupada said, my Guru Maharaj wanted me to preach in the Western countries, although I was at that time an ordinary manager in a chemical factory. I never thought, but I took it seriously. So from that 1922, that day in 1922, and now 1965, it has become fruitful. Yeah, he came in the United States in 1965. How many years? 43 years. So it is better late than never. Yes. So he desired me. I thought, now I'm a family man. Let me adjust things. I should have accepted immediately, but I was not so intelligent at that time. I thought, my responsibility to family is there. Let me wait. But still, Guru Maharaj was so kind to me that when I was Grihastha, I was seeing him in dreaming, And in the dream he asked me, you come with me now. So this is after Prabhupada's kids were grown and married and so forth. So I was going, and after that I was thinking, oh, I will have to take sannyasa and go with him. So it appeared to me very horrible. I was not very much inclined to take sannyasa. But Guru Maharaj is so kind that he ultimately forced me to take sannyasa and do this work. So it is all his kindness. So this is the memory of his kindness. So he's speaking on the day of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's disappearance. So 40 years ago, I remember the same thing as it is in 1922. And still the same thing is going on. There is nothing new. We have nothing to do new. Simply let us present as it is. It will be successful. So Prabhupada's title of Bhagavad Gita is Bhagavad Gita as it is. Not as I would like it to be, or I wish it was, or something. It's as it is. The same Bhagavad Gita spoken by Krishna 5,000 years ago is the same Bhagavad Gita Prabhupada translated and correctly commented on it. And anyone reading it will come to the conclusion that I should follow Arjuna's example and surrender to Krishna. And that's why so many people have done it. Before Prabhupada's translation and commentary on Bhagavad Gita, so many people read it. From the 17th century on, Bhagavad Gita was translated into English. There are over 500 translations of it. Not one person became a devotee reading all those translations. Not one person in those 500 years. It's only when Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita came out that people started reading it and coming to the conclusion, I should also surrender to Krishna. You see, the spirit of my writing is the same. Misled we are, all going astray. This soul-killing civilization is misleading us. See, now this lady that came today, she could see. Her daughter is on a fast track to kill her soul by not thinking there's anything wrong with selling meat and who knows what else is going to come. She's still very young, but she's already convinced that there's nothing wrong with it. Whereas this lady and her husband, they would never even imagine such a thing. See? So what happened? They failed in transferring their culture to their own daughter. And I told her, it's your fault. You're not involved in her education. I said, you can't entrust your child to be educated by someone who eats meat, who maybe smokes, who engages in illicit activities, who's selfish, who thinks that sense gratification is the goal of life, who's going to teach your kid Darwinism, Big Bang, and you should get a good job, good education, good job, make money, buy a house, buy a car, get a credit card, go into debt, And what is that person going to teach your child about what's important in life? Nothing. They're going to teach their child everything that's wrong. They're going to teach your child how to stay in the material world birth after birth, not how to get out of it. You must first analyze and scrutinize the qualities of the teacher before you entrust your child to that person. This was the process in India for millions of years. The guru had to be qualified, and then the child was given, just like even in Armenia, they used to say, I'll give you the soul of my child, I'll keep the skin. That meant, you have to understand what it means. It meant that the teacher had to teach the child how to be a devotee. Therefore, she said, I'm giving you the soul of my child, I'll keep the skin. I'll make sure the child is fed, dressed, on time, and so forth. But you teach the child the relationship with God. That's not even India, right? Now Armenia is already in the West, right? But that was its culture. Right? So that was the idea of the teacher. The teacher had to be a guru, a bona fide guru. You entrust your child to a person who's not a guru. They're not even a guru. They're not even let's say, a good person. These are low-class people. What do you expect the child to become? It's impossible that they can get anything good out of that type of education. So I'm going to finish now. Prabhupada says here, our real aim of life is to understand our spiritual identification and search out our relationship with God, Krishna. That is our real business. But this modern civilization is misleading us in different ways. So I wrote this, that misled we are, all going astray. Save us, Lord, our fervent prayer. Wonder thy ways to turn our face, adore thy feet, your divine grace. This is Prabhupada's poem. He wrote a long poem like this. So this portion, he very much appreciated. Now he's talking about his guru. When Bhaktisiddhanta heard this part of his poem, he very much appreciated it. Let me read it again. Misled we are, all going astray. Save us, Lord, our fervent prayer. Wonder thy ways to turn our face, adore thy feet, your divine grace. So this portion he very much appreciated. So we have to find out ways how to turn the current. The current is sense gratification. In other words, he's saying the current of the whole society today is sense gratification. Material life means the current is sense enjoyment, and this current has to be turned. Sense enjoyment, turned to sense enjoyment of Krishna. So that's what deity worship is. We're trying to please the senses of Krishna by offering him garlands and nice clothes and nice food and incense and perfumes and prayers, choice prayers glorifying and so forth. When this sense gratification will be turned toward Krishna, then our life is successful. Just like the gopis. Apparently it appears that gopis, they were attracted by a young boy, Krishna, and for their sense gratification, they made friendship with Krishna. No, that is not the fact. The fact is that gopis used to dress themselves nicely because by seeing them, Krishna will be satisfied. Not that for their own sense gratification. Generally, a girl dresses also to attract the attention of the boy. So the same thing is there, but it is Krishna's sense gratification, not the gopis. The gopis did not want anything, but Krishna will be satisfied. That is the difference between lust and love. Love is there only possible when it is diverted towards Krishna. That is love. And beyond that, or below that, everything is lust. So we should always remember this. The senses are not stopped, but when the gratification of the senses is directed toward Krishna, that is bhakti, or love. And when the sense gratification is directed toward personal self, that is lust. That is the difference between lust and love. So, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Prabhupada's guru, knew this art, how to turn our activities for the satisfaction of Krishna. This is the Krishna consciousness movement. Haribol. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. It goes on, but it's going to get late, so I want to give you all a chance to wake up and come to Mangala Arati. I don't want to keep you up too late. So, one of these days, everyone will come every day to Mangala Arati.